passe. Super l'artiste. Super. Encore un but sensationnel. That's a brilliant bit of follow-up play by Mahe. Oh my goodness me, what a shot.
Sagosen setter det hen! Han setter den! De er i semifinale igjen!
Hello everyone and welcome to the Uninformed Handball Hour. It's Chris, joined by Alex here. A lot to dive into today in the latest podcast as the summer rolls on and we build up to the Olympic Games. But we'll dive straight in with some transfer news. And, well, the biggest transfer news in quite a long time, I think. Andy Wolff has returned to Kiel. And there was a lot of chat about him potentially moving to Magdeburg in the build-up to the Final Four. Nicola Portner is a free man, vindicated for having a small amount of methamphetamine in his urine. He's free, which means Andy Wolff has gone back to his former club. How you doing, Alex?
I'm pretty good. I feel vindicated as well, as someone who always has a small amount of methamphetamine in their body to keep me going, you know, me and Nicola. But I think this Andy Wolff transfer is absolutely fascinating. It's been rumbling for quite a while, and, you know, Andy Wolff has been pretty consistent in his messaging that he wants to go back to Germany. And, you know, Magdeburg were in it for a little while, but, you know, when Kiel came in, everything just fell into place, which, like, it is pretty great for Kiel. You know, let's not underestimate just how good Andy Wolff is. He's been incredible in the Champions League and all of the major championships for Kielce. He's like consistently been one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And we talked about Kiel time and time again over the last season that their goalkeepers were not good enough. They weren't consistent enough, and how, you know, they really need a top-class goalkeeper. Maybe they're set up as a team relies on a top-class goalkeeper being between the sticks. But there's also been bit of drama about the transfer fee. I don't know if you've seen that around.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it go from, you know, potential and probable €300,000 to a potential 1.6 million up to 2 million euro. So I have no idea where the truth lies.
It's been Handball Base who have been really pushing this 1.6 million plus 400,000 in bonuses to an extent where they even in their latest post or their kind of unveiling post, I think they have a picture of Andy Wolff and his agents, who are these two Balkan men on a sailboat somewhere, exactly where you'd imagine handball deals to be happening of this level. And the thing is, we had, in all of the rumors kind of leading up to this transfer, it was around this 1 million mark. You know, that it was quite a large transfer fee that was being mentioned. Maybe, you know, that's just agents putting stuff out there. But the 300,000 as well is actually, I think it was shared by Bild, but I couldn't actually quite find that exact article. I've searched everywhere, and there's no fee that has been officially disclosed. It was just because Bild posted something about 300,000 that everyone was like, well, if it's Bild, then we absolutely have to believe that, not this random handball base website that exists and has a nice graphic on their Instagram account. But I'm not sure. You know, Bild are, you know, amazing, reputable paper, but they're also not very close to handball. You know, it's not like they have experts in there that are going to get the insights out of transfers like this. And I would actually be quite surprised if 300,000 was the transfer fee. You know, we're talking about 4 years of a contract. Like, this isn't, you know, Andy Wolff signed until 2028, so it's 4 seasons of a contract that's being bought out.
Yeah.
Even when you compare it to the other kind of big transfer news on the women's side that happened, Anna Viekerova signing for Brest, and it was Brest buying her 1 year of her contract out for €170,000. And, you know, that doesn't really stack up for me. You know, a transfer between Vipers and Brest for a top player, valued at 100 of 1 season of a contract being bought out, 170,000.
Yeah.
You know, Andy Wolff is worth a lot more than that, especially on a 4-year contract.
The same source here, Handball Base, are reporting that he is getting a net monthly salary of, I think, just under $500,000 a year. So, in that sense, if you're trying to buy out a 4-year contract and that's the type of money that you're paying him, then the math does math. Yes, it does add up to, and that is what transfer fees, you know, in their kind of original form. If we discount the ridiculous numbers that are in football, that's what transfer fees are. You're buying out the contract of the person that you're getting in and whatever the club who's selling believes that contract.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's pretty clear, or it has been reported, that Wolff was getting something similar in Kiel on a net basis. So that 500,000 net, I think it's like 40,000 euro per month net again. So maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I would be... Like, I've really looked around to see where this, like, lower fee came from, and I can't find any good sources for it either. I can't find any reputable sources that are actually putting their neck out for any transfer fee except for Handball Base with this quite large value. And I think for Kielce, you know, I think they're in debt, they're struggling, and 300,000 maybe is enough, you know, for a team in Poland with to help them out. But you really, you know, I don't quite think it's the 2 million, but there's something. It has to be more than that 300,000 value.
But a massive boost for Kiel, nonetheless, getting him in for whatever it's cost. And, you know, we had a kind of feeling around the Final Four this season that this could be the last time in a while we're seeing Kiel at this level, because it's a long road back to the Final Four and even back to the Champions League when you consider the strength of Berlin, Magdeburg, Flensburg. And now that they've kind of parachuted in, someone like Andy Wolff will be a massive boost for them. Also, when you think about Gonzalo Perez Vargas coming in the following season, it's a very exciting goalkeeper duo to have. And, you know, if we think about what the big difference was when we talked about Kiel last summer and talking about them right now this summer, it was one of the main things, besides everything else, was the goalkeeper. And I remember we talked about at length with Nicolas Landin leaving was going to be a key trouble for them, that helped to expose just how much of a mess the gameplay was in both an attack and defense. Having someone like Andy Wolff in could help patch up those terrible issues they have in other parts of the court, and maybe help this relatively, I mean, now it's becoming a younger team, settle a little bit more, knowing that they have someone like him to back them up. Absolutely.
It's going to be really interesting, because basically we'll be able to compare really well the impact of a goalkeeper on a team, on a top team. because we've had, Kiel with Landin. We know what that looked like. It's been relatively the same team. Kiel do have a couple of players coming in, but, it's relatively the same team. We saw how they performed with poor goalkeepers, and that's being harsh on Markva. But, Bellesen helped them, but he's still not the highest level. And then we'll just see what kind of impact Wolff can have. And looking at Kielce, same thing. He has been just so good for Kielce at each of the kind of big stages in the Champions League over the last few seasons, to ultimately no avail, which is, I presume, part of the reason why he just wanted to leave, because there's only so much heartbreak that a player can take season over season, time and time again, where I've personally seen him in the depths of despair, lying on the ground after a devastating loss twice, 2 years in a row. It's seen him sitting in a corner between a staircase, looking off into the distance. And I can only imagine the pain that causes. And there's, I think he just had to go. So it's a little bit sad, because he has been such a success for Kielce. It was a huge signing at the time. Big statement, Wolff leaving Kiel, where he was in competition with Landin, to go to Poland. And I think it's been a success without really that top honour to top it off.
Yeah, I mean, they again came so desperately close to being in the Final Four this time around, when we think back to that penalty shootout. And big question mark over Kielce's goalkeeper duo then for next season. Miłosz Wałak and Sandro Mestric, the two goalkeepers set to be there at the moment. Rumours about whether Samir Bellesen will go the other way. Besides that, looks like a fairly good Kielce squad if everyone is healthy. I forgot there temporarily that they had Szymon Siczko and Hassan Kada as left backs. So, you just hope that it won't be like the, a beginning of some kind of exodus for the team. We know that Danny Dushabayev and Alex are staying around. And besides that, it looks like there's not too much change for this squad. There's a line player swap with Nicolas Tournat out and replaced by Theo Monar. So look, a direct swap there between the Nantes and Kielce clubs. But yeah, it's a great signing for Kiel, and makes the Bundesliga again even more exciting next season. Like, that automatically propels them back into being a contender, as ludicrous as that may have sounded 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it really does. And now there's absolutely no excuse if Kiel start poorly for Philip Ika. I think it's both, helped Ika, but also put him even more under the spotlight for that first month or two of the season. Some other big transfers. You mentioned Anna Vekreva going to Brest and the fee associated there. I think it's worth talking about a little bit more. We had Anna Vekreva on the podcast a couple of months ago. That is a big move for Brest Bretagne as well, and a team that looked like they were maybe fading a little bit from the top level of women's club handball, but showed with a few signings already for this summer that they were serious. In particular, bringing in like Canor, No Candy as a playmaker, and now they've got Anna Vekreva in there in that backcourt as well, which is massive. And Rafael Terval, who's a former Champions League winner with Djur, coming in as the head coach, and it's great to see a female head coach coming in. She'll have a massive boost
with Vekreva joining them. Besides that, Lukas Sindrich has gone to Veszprem, which I haven't made my mind up about that one just yet. It feels like a very Veszprem signing.
Has Lukas Sindrich played for Veszprem? It feels like he's played for them. Like he's such a Veszprem player.
Yeah, but for better or for worse, this is what I wonder. I mean, he is a proper playmaker, and he's only 31.
Yeah, he's still absolutely in the prime of his career, and I think he does have this winner mentality that, you know, when he came to Barcelona, he was a bit of a solution for them. Not, you know, when they were kind of in between generations, they got an investment in, and like Sindrich made a really big difference for them, and I think he does give them a proper playmaker. He works really well with Xavi Pascual, who's coming in. So immediately, Xavi Pascual has his kind of general in there to set the rules and get the team playing like he wants them to play. Because, you know, you get a playmaker in who's played so many years with a coach, it can work. It didn't really work out for him in Dinamo Bucharest. I do wonder, you know, if there was anything more. Like, he just didn't feel settled in Bucharest. Never really kind of pushed them to the next level that we thought was going to happen. But again, that was cut short. But yeah, I think it's as always, it's a really, really good team that Veszprem have.
It is genuinely a very, very good team. Yeah, and you know, maybe one thing we've had against them a little bit was the lack of a proper playmaker. That again, you know, they had big boys in there. Rasmus Lauge was probably the last proper playmaker they had in there, who, you know, could be argued whether he's a playmaker or a left back, depending on the situation he's in. And yeah, it looks like you know, Fabregas, there was some talk about him maybe going back to Barca. Maybe that's going to be in the future years, but he's staying. And besides that, very little change. They, you know, Andreas Nielsen has left, which is, in terms of leadership, a loss. Kanta Mahe, we knew was leaving, and Yahya Omar to PSG. But Nikola Grahovac has come in, who's a very talented young line player. And maybe Nadim Remeli is going to have to retrain again to become a right back once more, which maybe leads us on nicely to discussing the Olympic squads which have been announced.
There was another big deal, that was just announced, and that was Torbjörn Bergerud confirmed to go to Wisła Płock from next year, so from 2025. From next year,
okay. So Kolstad have one more chance.
Kolstad have one more chance to get their shit together, and it's going to be tough for them.
Oh yes, we should talk about the Champions League draw at some point as well. Let us not totally destroy that smooth transition I had set up.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. It was we're nearly there. It was right there, but I had Bergerud in my head.
Throw it in. Olympic squads are being thrown in fast and furious, with just under 3 weeks until the games in Paris. And I think the French men's national team was one of the most highly anticipated one. And almost, I mean, they should have done a live documentary on it as they went down from 21 to 17 and now 17 to 14.
It really was like Survivor.
Exactly, it was fantastic. And that has now been confirmed. Two things that really stand out for me in all of this is Vincent Girard has made a miraculous rise up the ranks again, playing in the second tier in France just to get some handball in his boots. And he's been named ahead of Samuel Belhassen. Really a bad week for Samuel Belhassen, being dropped down to number 3 for both club and country in the same week. But great for Vincent Girard, who is a fantastic man. and was a hero for
He's a fantastic man. He is just a fantastic man. He's a lovely, as a man, he's a good man.
and was the hero for them at the last Olympics. And Nedim Remili is the only playmaker in the squad before he has to retrain to become a right back again.
To be fair, Melvin Richardson is in there. Who
has filled in really well in that role. That is okay. So it's basically a bunch of right backs.
Yeah, a bunch of right backs.
Yeah, a bunch of right backs. Even Valentin Port is squeezed in there as a right winger.
Yeah, exactly.
Who also could play as a playmaker. Best bunch of left-handers in the world, no doubt. And at least, actually, I will stick to that. But yeah, it's a risky setup with Remili, Richardson, Mem, like there and that basic one side, and then Prandi and Karabatic only
just Prandi essentially
occupying the left-hand side. It's a tough, like 14 players in the squad. It's a tough schedule.
I love it. As you described it, it's like a Survivor Series, and coaches have to take risks somewhere because you can't. The usual 16 players is there because there's 8 positions. You put 2 in each, and then you figure it out. People have to sacrifice. The coaches have to sacrifice 1 or 2 positions, and looking at the squad again on the line, I suppose the decision being made about Karl Conan as a defender, you have Fabregas and Karabatic on the line, Nicolas Tournat being left out, so you're kind of picking a defensive specialist ahead of an offensive specialist. Aymeric Mean missing out for sure. It is pretty tough. He'll be pretty annoyed that Nikola Karabatic is taking his place, but he probably understands.
Yeah. Well, he is one of the 3 replacements, and so I guess injuries and all that could come into play. And he is the only, let's say, normal, like the only backcourt player in those 3 replacements, with Belacen being the goalkeeper and Nicolas Tournat as a attacking line player in there.
Yeah. And, just kind of sticking with that theme, the Danish squad also was quite interesting.
They've gone for the opposite. Just 3 left-handers. And they're all right backs.
They're all right backs, no right wingers. Right wingers are so out of fashion right now. If you can only play right wing, you're a waste of space. So they've gone with just Kirkuluka on the right wing. Which is a real risk. They've gone with no right wing players, and not even in backups. So Lindbergh is not a backup. No right winger is a backup. So in the case that Kirkuluka does get injured in the first game, they can't bring someone in. No. They have to play either Mads Hoxer or Matthias Gitzel on the wing. And funnily enough, it's probably Matthias Gitzel that'll be a better winger.
Yeah.
But he's also the best player in the world at his own position. So it's like, it's one...
It's bizarre.
It's, one twisted ankle away from chaos with this Danish team. And he's kind of... so Nikolaj Jakobsen has chosen to do that to basically... It's also a bit of legacy in there as well. Rasmus Lauge, I think, really being the odd man out. I think Mikkel Hansen was discussed for a long time of whether, he was going to make it, which I thought was really funny. It's just such a different mindset. In France, no one was talking about whether Nikola Karabatic is going to make the squad, even though he's much worse than Hansen is right now. Yeah,
and Hansen showed that he's very much still there in the Final Four. He had a storm.
But it was a lot of the media, or at least the Danish media, were like, oh, is Mikkel Hansen going to be picked? But he's still still Mikkel Hansel, and it is like of all players, you do give him that legacy tournament, even if he wasn't that good. But I think Lauga, on the other hand, he's just not that good. He's not that good anymore. He's kind of he hasn't been performing at a high level since, like, he's been okay for Björn Borg.
You'd understand that if the whole squad was kind of like these legacy picks, and if you had Hans Lindberg in there, for example, then you'd be like, okay, he's sticking with the guys who, have won it over the years, and he's given them one last hurrah. But that has really not been the case. You see, Thomas Arnoldson is basically a bolter to get himself in there. Mads Hoxer as well with his performances this season. And another big absentee in this kind of category is Mads Mensa, who's nowhere to be seen. Yeah. And Mads Mensa has had a larger role to play recently for Denmark than Rasmus Lauge. And yeah, I think if you were going like purely on form this season, then I would have expected Lasse Andersen in there ahead of Lauge, also due to his ability to play so heavily in both positions, both attack and defence.
To be fair, Lasse Andersen really tailed off towards the end of the season in his performances for Berlin. Just as he finally made the breakthrough back into the Danish squad, I think he just completely ran out of steam. So he's still there as a backup. Players like Lasse Muller didn't get a sniff either. Kevin Muller in goals, not getting in.
Wait, here's a question for you. I mean, this is the final that everyone wants, these two teams, and that's why we're talking about them. For me, Denmark looks stronger overall at the moment.
Yes. No, they're just both insane. I was just about to say, like, it's like,
they are both insane.
Emil Jakobsen, probably the best left winger in the world. Definitely was the best left winger in Bundesliga. Saugstrup, probably the best line player in the world, MVP of the Bundesliga. Gisel, best player in the world. But then Nielsen in goals, best player in the world. Like, you can say that, but then you go to France and you're like, okay, oh yeah, Dickamem, oh yeah, best player in the world. Oh, Melvin Richardson, MVP of the Champions League Final Four. Fabregas on the line. Well, probably the best player in the world. Like, they just have the ones in like each position. They have at least one top three player. Both teams, and just the goalkeeper position being the only real difference, I would say. We've talked about that before, and it always seems to work out for France. Well, not always, but sometimes.
Germany have made a couple of interesting choices, I feel, in their Olympic squad as well, where Alfred Gislason, I think, after seeing some of the performances in January at the Euro, has made some big calls, particularly in the left back position, where they've gone with three players first of all, with Kuster, Heyman, and Gergic, who's been a proper bolter in the second half of the season. Fantastic for him, but literally gone with the new generation in there. Also in the playmaker position, Yuri Knorr and Luka Witske, and at right back with Uschins as the main man now, and Franz Semper in there as number 2, and they've gone with four left-handed players. Steinert as the hybrid guy on the wing and back, and Tim Hornke in there, and only one left winger in Lucas Mertens, with Rune Damke being one of the reserve 3, and just 2 line players as well, with Golla and Kohlbacher, which feels less extreme. But still some interesting choices in there for the team. And I guess kind of choices that will leave people excited to see what they can come up with as well. It's a bit more randomness in this German team, which I like.
It's got a lot of potential. Like, that backcourt has something in it, but at the same time, why aren't these kind of like Custer and Knorr, both players who, just should be better than they are. That's the annoying thing. They really have the potential to be right at the top, like, in the same way we're talking about Denmark and France. Those two players have that potential. And Özcan's showed that maybe he has something in him as well. So maybe it all comes together, and they put together a performance like they did in the Euros. They did pretty well, but again, it's just a whole different level with Denmark and France. But anything can happen. I think this is a tournament where really kind of, one injury, even like a minor injury, keeping a player out for a couple of games is enough to throw a whole tournament off.
Yeah. I want to get your thought on, before we leave the Olympics for now, on the seemingly huge difference in build-up between men's and women's teams, with the men's team seemingly going into like proper camp this week and some test matches coming at the end of the week, whereas the women have been at it seems all for the last month. Norway and France on the women's side have just been beating the crap out of each other in joint training sessions and two full test matches.
So weird,
right? The two best teams in the world going at it, just making themselves better. They had a couple of test matches and won each, as well as having some joint sessions. And Netherlands and Sweden had two test matches, one official and then one unofficial, for whatever reason, but have been at it. Denmark have been in Spain training away, where they also, like, for the last 2 weeks at least, and then they also had a training match against Netherlands. I just wonder why there seems to be such a disparity between the way the women's teams are preparing and the men's teams. It's interesting for me. Why? Do you have any thoughts? Because I really don't know why.
I'm not sure. I was going to say, is it bigger as a women's team than anything that goes on in the season? Like, so substantially bigger, where, like women's handball, of course, is of similar stature to men's. And that's something that, we're all proud of the sport, but from like a global perspective, from really a team making it on the, front page of their national newspaper during the Olympics, this is a bigger chance. There could be some sort of sports science aspect to it, where you don't take a break, where you just keep rolling, keep training through to maintain the level of the players, or
could be. I mean, the fact the women's teams don't have to peak so early in the season as well in their respective leagues, and Champions League also allows them to actually take a proper rest after the Olympics. Unlike the men's, who you imagine they're going straight back into preseason training once they finish up in Paris.
Can we just go back to the France-Norway training camp before the Olympics? It's just the wildest. Yeah. Like, who are they? You're saying they're beating each other up, trying to like both get better. Like, against who? It's like I was about to compare it to like the Dragon Ball Z. Did you ever watch Dragon Ball Z back in the day? And they had this like a hyperbolic time chamber where the fighters could go into this time chamber, and like every minute on Earth is like a week in the chamber or something, so they could like do this intense training for a long time. And at one stage there was kind of two rivals. I think it was like Gohan and Trunks, who were rivals at the time, but then it was Frieza who was the big evil force that was there, so they both kind of got over it and they trained together, fought each other, and both got stronger to defeat this greater force. But there is no greater force than France and Norway in women's handball. I don't think they're scared of Denmark that much.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And hopefully we'll have some chance to find out as we build up to the Olympics as well, and have a chance to speak to some people who may know. Or who may, just like us, also agree that it's complete lunacy. Either way, they did it. And it seems like nobody got injured, so that's good. So before we get into our interviews here, one of them brand new for everyone, and a couple of them, if you're a subscriber on Patreon, patreon.com/handball hour, you would have heard last week from the Partille Cup. But before we go into that, a little postscript in the middle of the podcast, because after recording, news came out almost as if prophesized by Alex Kulesh, saying there, Alex, that you said that Denmark were just one ankle roll away from potential chaos on that right-hand side. Well, an ankle injury from Mads Hoxer has ruled him out, and it's come early enough for Denmark to bring in someone who was not on the reserve list. Hans Lindberg has been brought in to join the squad, which has shifted the luck of that just a little bit. We'll speak a little bit more about that, of course, as we get closer to the Olympics. But for now, shall we listen to a few interviews from the Partille Cup, and in particular, Jesper Nøddesbo, the chillest man on earth.
Yeah. Well, so what was Jesper doing there? Did he have a team with him, or was he just a general representative?
No, he was there coaching his daughter's under-14 team for AGF in Aarhus.
Oh, you gotta love it.
Partille Cup is fantastic. It's the first time I've been there working at it. Of course, I've been in Gothenburg for years now, and always kind of dropped in and checked it out over the years. But you know, when you're roaming around for hours on the 85 different courts in action for 5 days, you really get a feel for just how nuts this whole thing is, how lovely it all is as well. So many stories that we'll hear that kind of back that up. Really is what handball is all about. And I think a great example of that is Jesper Nøddesbo, one of the, all-time Danish legends, playing at the very top level for club and country over the years. And I saw him just wandering around the leader's corner with his dog. And I'm like, is that who I think it is? It's like nobody else has this magnificent a beard at the Partille Cup. And so I said to my colleague, I was like, is that him? And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's him. I was like, okay, we have to just go over and ask for a quick interview with him. And he was incredibly happy to oblige. Yeah, I was there with his dog. Him and his whole family went over. Daughter's playing in the competition, and they're going to stay in Sweden for some holidays afterwards. And he shares what he's actually been learning from being part of this experience in terms of transitioning from being a elite handball player to a part of the handball community, and whether this means there's any future in coaching for him. We found someone very special here in the leaders' corner at Partille World Cup. Jesper Nøddesbo with your dog as well. What brings you to Gothenburg?
I've been here with my handball team. I didn't play, but my girls played G14. So it's been a great week, also a tough week, but a very fun week.
Which is your club?
Aarhus, AGF Lysing.
Very well represented city, I have to say, Aarhus, with HI and your club as well. How have you found your week here in Gothenburg?
It's been really fun. It's been a first-time experience for me, so I really enjoyed it, and it has been a special experience, especially today here at Heden. It's been really good to feel the tension of all the teams and playing finals, and somebody's really sad and also somebody's really happy. That's very fun to see.
And as somebody who's competed at the very highest level, I guess when you come here with a young team like this, it's not so much about winning really at the end of the day. It's the development and the experience. How is it to try and get that message across? Because I can imagine it's hard.
No, it isn't hard because we only won one game this week. So actually, this is what I work for. This is what I enjoy by coaching, by being a coach. It's been really an eye opener for me to leave the professional handball and come back to what's really fun. All about community, working with joy and development. So for me, that's the main reason that I'm here. It's not to win, it's to be with the young girls.
Tell us about your daughters as handball players. Are they following in your footsteps or how?
The oldest one, she is. The youngest one, she's more about gymnastics and dancing.
And we've seen a lot of Danish success also today as well. I think behind us we have Georgi 1 versus Georgi 2 in the boys' final under 16. When we talk about development of young players as well, I think Georgi are a fantastic example of that. Have you had a chance to speak to any of the coaches here and pick up a few things from them?
I've been speaking to a few coaches, and I've also been speaking to a few older colleagues. So it's been quite fun. But I think I've been talking about one thing with a lot of people up here. It's the youth handball. Or we also speak about the youth in general in Denmark now. That I think there is. You also see it here that there are so many people that also coaches, parenting, and also everybody wants to do good. But it's I think it's not a problem, but it's becoming a small obstacle for the community and having fun and only developing. One part is that everybody wants to win and everybody wants to perform, but in the end I think there is something that needs to become before that, and that is also something that I see here. There are a lot of teams having so much fun, and that brings really joy to my heart.
The community spirit is fantastic here, right?
Definitely, and that is something that makes me really happy.
What has been your favorite part of the experience? Is there something in particular that's really stood out for you in that regard?
The experience that my girls got by playing outside when it was pouring rain. That was something that was really good. And that has been an experience that I think they remember and I'll remember. And also all the things and what happens during nighttime when they're really tired and they don't want to play, and everything has been really, really good.
Have you ever played outside yourself?
Yes, I'm that old. But we didn't play. We didn't get the opportunity to play on artificial grass. We played on real grass. Okay. And we didn't have the opportunity to switch courts when it got rainy. So we played with a lot of mud, and that was also a very different experience.
And as now dipping your toe into the coaching world, you see yourself getting involved at a higher level, or is it very much about the community side for you now?
For me, it has been, it's all about the community side right now. I don't see myself going to do pro coaching right now. I like the developing part, so is for me the most important part right now. I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoy the community part.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you remember last year when we did the live show in Michigan at the US Handball Championship, Joey Williams was the organizer of that competition. We had a chat with him then, and he is here at the moment with a very interesting story, as he was supposed to bring a Detroit team over to Partille Cup. There weren't quite enough people in the end who were able to go, but there was still one player who wanted to join him, Zeke. And he and Zeke have travelled over to Gothenburg and joined the Trist 77 club in Scotland, a very traditional Scottish club. They've joined forces in the under 13 category. So we had a chat with Joey Williams about this current trip to Gothenburg, and the very first time as well that he came 9 years ago to Partille Cup, which was his first proper experience of competitive handball. We spoke to him and Craig Ewell, who's one of the coaches for the Trice 77 club, a Great Britain international, and currently playing professional handball in Portugal. They met 9 years ago, and so nice to hear about them renewing their friendship and bringing these two teams together, players from the USA and Scotland at Partille Cup. Let's hear what they have to say. Right, we're joined by Craig Ewell and Joey Williams, both this week from Trice 77 in Scotland. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good, all good.
Fantastic. And this is really nice, I think, to feature here because it's a little bit of a Scottish-American connection, both with the two of you and also in one of your teams as well. But tell me about how you two met in the first place.
So myself and Joey, we met here at Partille about 9 years ago. I was here with Trice back when I was younger, and Joey was here representing the US. So yeah, long time ago. But we've somehow over the years kept in touch in a weird way, not by like reaching out. We just seem to bump into each other in some places and have weird like connections. So
But that tends to happen with Joey Williams. He just bumps into people in a weird way, right, Joey?
I just sort of stumble through life and good things kind of happen. So, we've been staying in touch. And, thankfully, Craig helped us out with a little bit of a pinch here with participating this week.
Tell me a little bit about that. We're going to speak to one of the young players who's actually from Detroit. So you've been training a lot of kids, actually, in Detroit over the last couple of years. But he and you came over basically without a team, but in real brotherly love, which I feel like Partille Cup is all about. You've joined forces with Trice.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm part of the Detroit Handball Club, and we've been working the past few years to try to grow the sport in the U.S., specifically Detroit. So we have a pretty good youth program going, and obviously this is the best youth handball tournament, maybe youth sports event in the world. So my goal was to send a team here this year. Had a lot of interest, a lot of excitement, till it was time to actually, get down to it. But thankfully, we had one family, the Zimini family, who was all in, heck or high water. So tried to find a team, and thankfully reached out to my friend Craig, and we're honorary Scotsmen this week.
Craig, you got how many teams? 4 or 5 teams over from Trice?
4 teams participating this week, yeah.
Nice. And you're taking care of the club, or are you focusing on one team?
Kind of focusing more on the older boys. We've got 5 or 6 other coaches kind of spread out all over the place. So yeah, good amount of teams, good amount of coaches, just looking to have a good.
And it's a big old tournament, of course. The levels, I think, particularly coming from countries that are not traditional handball countries such as all of ours, it can be quite a deep dive for players who come here for the first time. How have they adapted so far?
Pretty well. The boys are obviously handball in the UK, I'm sure it's pretty, train once a week, play once every month, so they come here and they're playing probably just the same amount of games as they've played in nearly a whole season, and they're just desperate to get at it, desperate to get stuck in and do their best, and, they show that they can compete at these levels, and if they had the same privileges that the boys from Europe do, they'd be just as good, and we'd be up there. So yeah, they love it, we love it, and it's just fantastic.
I think you're a great example of that, playing here 9 years ago, and now you've been playing your trade in Portugal, playing professionally the last few years.
Yeah, so I grew up with Trice all the way from 5 years old till I was 18, and then 18 I was like, yep, I need to get a taste of the European scene. So went out to Denmark for a year and a bit, been playing in Portugal for the last 3 years, and it's just an incredible privilege to have handball as a part of your life, and then to come here and see so many young players who probably want the same thing. It's really quite special. Yeah,
I think that's massive for these young players as well, having someone like you here who has taken that step away, who was in the same place as they were not so many years ago. And Joey, you were 9 years ago back here. What are your memories from that tournament back then?
Best week of my entire life. That was my very first time playing handball at all. My very first game was here, and so it genuinely changed my life because I saw, wow, handball is very popular, can be a lot of fun, and just a great time. Good to be back.
I think that's a beautiful way to finish it. Joey, Craig, thank you so much. Thank you to Joey and Craig. Very lovely story there, and I think that really is one of the things that sums up just how fantastic this tournament is. It's elite youth sport, but also a real family atmosphere and collegial atmosphere among the teams. It's serious while they're on that artificial grass court for the 30 minutes or so, but all friendship off of it as well. And a really interesting story that has emerged over the last couple of days, right at the beginning of Partille Cup, is with the Zimbabwe club Mash Rhino Sports Academy, and they were planning on coming with about 25 players from the boys and girls under 13 category, but unfortunately some visa problems meant that they've arrived with just 6 boys and 6 girls. They're still competing in the competition nonetheless, and just before recording this I had a chance to watch them in action against Fjellhammer from Norway, and well, let's say when it comes to the scoreline, it was pretty much set after the first half, and Fjellhammer then deciding to even things up a little bit and play 6 against 6, which was a lovely act of sportsmanship in itself. But I had a chance to speak to a coach from the Mash Rhino Sports Academy here about their long and arduous journey to get to this point and what they're focusing on with the 6 boys they have in Sweden. So we're here with the coach from Mash Rhino Sports Academy, and what's your name?
Itai Munyanyi.
And it's a pleasure to speak to you. We just saw your battle there with the Norwegian team on court 2. It's been obviously a tough couple of days for the team. You had a long journey to get here and not with as many players as you thought.
Yeah, unfortunately we had to play with 6 players throughout the tournament because we are player short. We had problems with visa and also the long journeys. It has been tough, but they're enjoying themselves as kids.
And can you tell us a little bit about the visa issue and what happened there?
The visa issue, there were some players who had to apply for a visa in Kenya because our embassy in the Swedish embassy in Zimbabwe is not actually processing visas. They are being sent to Kenya. So in Kenya there was a strike there and they couldn't process all the visas on time. And so the visas of the players who were processed the first are those whom came with. And the others were left behind. We don't know whether they will be able to make it here or maybe they have not. We were communicating with them. We hoped that they would come, but up to now, not yet.
And you had an incredibly long journey to get here as well.
Yeah, very long journey. As you can imagine, South Africa, then Cairo, then Copenhagen, then here. It has been long for sure.
And despite all of that, have you feel like you and the boys have been able to enjoy the experience with the 6 of you?
Very much so. We have enjoyed every minute of our stay here, and they are learning everything. Some of the things which they are now doing in the court, they have picked them from watching the other kids play. So they are playing, they are learning, it has been enjoyable, every minute of it.
And it seems like the scores are getting better as well as the games are getting on. As a coach, how are you trying to approach it, knowing that you're going to be a player short each time? But the guys seem to be fighting for everything. But what are you focusing on with them in each game?
Yeah, usually what we are focusing in is that they should defend en masse in numbers. Then when we break as a team. We attack together, leaving only one person behind, helping the goalkeeper to defend if they have a fast break. So that has been our strategy so far. Sometimes our players, because of jet lag, they're a bit tired, the legs, the muscles, they have not stretched enough. So when they are running, they try to be fast, but sometimes they are not fast enough. But we are trying to make sure that they are in their best position physically so that they can play the games more.
And it was really nice to see in the second half against Fjellhammer there, the Norwegian side, that they played with 6 as well. So it felt like it was a fair, competitive game, 6 against 6.
Yeah, it was good sportsmanship. They did actually very well for us because you can imagine playing 6 against 7, it's always a struggle. So they made it actually a little bit a closer match for us, because we were able to compete 1-on-1 with them. Although they were a little bit better, but at least we gave our best.
And it's, I think, fantastic at Partille World Cup to see all these teams from all around the world. And Zimbabwe is a team we haven't heard so much of in the handball world. But how is the sport at the moment over in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, the sport in Zimbabwe it's actually picking up. It's a new sport. We have just recently introduced this a few years ago, late 2020, late 90s, 2019s and so forth. That's when we introduced it. It's picking up, and I'm glad that we're able to come here, because it's a learning phase for them, and we hope we'll bring a bigger team next time.
And we hope so too. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week, and good luck in your games. Thanks so much for talking.
Thank you very much, sir.
That was Jesper. That experience alone, as well as all the other lovely people I had a chance to speak to, the gang from Zimbabwe, Joey Williams again, old friend of the podcast, all great people to run into. Definitely you can sign me up again for it next year, that's for sure. I'm doing the beach handball version of it this coming week, going down to Aarhus for 10 days of handball on the sand and beach handball. I'm not sure there'll be as many high-profile names there, but it'll be good fun. And Marcio Menino will be joining us, and there's a high-profile name for you.
That's a big name for you. Gotta love the Partille Cup.
Makes me wish I played in it, but never did.
Yeah, it would have been fun. Fun fact about Jesper Nøddesbo. It is one of the only Danish books I bought. His autobiography in Danish. When I was trying to learn Danish, and I was like, well, I know about Jesper Nøddesbo's life pretty much. This will help. Got about 4 pages in before I gave up, and that's not really on Jesper Nøddesbo's writing. It's more about the quality of my Danish comprehension at the time.
We hinted briefly at the Champions League draw. We'll talk more about this in August and September, yes. But both in the men's and women's competitions, Group B is fucking ridiculous. 3 of the final 4 teams in one group together. We have Szeged in the men's side, also in Group B, who have been completely bolstered. And then the ultimate scrap of a lifetime on the way, which I can only imagine, like, predicting now, but it could who knows how it's going to turn out, with Nantes, Kolstad and Zagreb all battling for just one spot in the next round. This is the kind of stuff you want to see in the Champions League. It's just a pity it's one group and not like 4 groups like this, where, you know, it's 4 amazing teams battling for 2 places. Quite wild. And it does go back. You were complaining about... Well, you complain about many things. Pots and seedings. And I think the pots, like the way they built it this year, it came back to bite them in the backside there.
Yeah, like, what was the reasoning again? There was the champions, then there was the runners-up, or like the second. Yeah, okay, so the pots were all of the champions of the top 6 leagues. Then there was the second place teams in those leagues, and then pot 3 was the
upgrades.
They were basically champions from. No, it's not upgrade. So in pot 2 there was wild cards in there as well, but pot 2 was, you know, the second team from Germany, the second team from Poland, the second team from Denmark, the second team from Hungary, and the second team from France. And then pot 3 was the all of the individual other champions. So I get the reasoning, but I don't know if there's any true logic to it, other than just like this seems to make sense.
What has really skewed it all is the fact that you have Szeged, you have 3 teams who finished second place in Kielce, Szeged and Nantes, joining 3 teams who were in the Final Four last season. And so basically everything that could have gone like wrong in terms of pairing teams together went wrong. And then on the other side, you end up with Pelister, Dinamo Bucuresti, Sporting, Fredericia, and Płocka as a champion. Yeah,
And even Płocka.
and of course, like they, deserve a champions, no argument there. And PSG is a champion, and so it really, it's really gone all tits up in that regard. But it's going to be really entertaining.
The luck of the draw.
Truly the luck of the draw. And the women's one is not much better, with 3 Final Four teams in there, plus Vipers, who previously won the competition 3 times before that, plus Brest Britannia with Anna Reva in there. And just one other note on Women's Champions League clubs. Budućnost yesterday said that they fear they may not be able to survive due to BMAX, their sponsor, pulling out. But today I saw news that the city of Podgorica said, "Oh, don't you worry about that. We'll fix it." So I think the future of women's handball in Montenegro is secured.
Okay. I hadn't heard the city coming in and bailing them out. It was pretty dire news.
I think
what I heard.
Montenegrin politics and handball are very, very closely tied, and so they'll be fine. Men's Euro under 20 begins this week, which at some point we should talk about. That is going to be good fun. 24 teams in it. Just one really, like, something that is probably what you'd want to see, maybe to the extreme for the Champions League. It's 6 groups, and only the top team plus the 2 best runners up go to the main round. Yeah.
Love it.
And when you have a group, for example, with Spain, France, Faroe Islands and Switzerland, with Petar Sikusha and Olli Mitton facing off, plus France and Switzerland, that is definitely a group to watch out for in Slovenia, which Slovenia seems to be the home of all these tournaments nowadays. But hey, if they keep doing it, then good for them. So that's a fun little tournament to keep an eye on.
There's always a couple of stars that come out of tournaments like these. Will be interesting to follow it. There's already a couple of stars in it, the likes of the Chikusha twins and Olli Mitton. But always interesting to see who makes it out of it and who becomes like the MVP generally. They are blossom into stars. I think the last one of these, it was Francisco Costa that was lighting it up with the likes of Shipagotu, Thomas Arnoldson. These are players that have become players that we talk about on a weekly basis in the Champions League. So only 2 years on, we see kind of their stars come out.
You just mentioning the Costa brothers there had me intrigued to see whether they are named in the extended squad. I think we don't know whether they'll actually play, but Kiko Costa is in the squad for Portugal, as is Diogo Rema Marquez, who was the star goalkeeper for them at senior level this January. So, well, no Olympics to play in because they missed out on the chance for that. So, why not try and get to another Euro final?
Yeah, look at this, the all-star team from 2018. We got goalkeeper, unknown from Norway, but right wing, Domen Novak.
Wait, what's his name?
Robin Poulsen Haug.
Oh yeah, but he's appeared for Norway, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, right wing we got Domen Novak. Right back, and the MVP of the competition, a player who didn't really live up to the hype at the time, was Diogo Silva. But Kylian Villemont at centre back. We got Dylan Nahi left wing, Luis Friday and pivot. So this is like it really is a good indication of the top players that are gonna make it through. Let me just look at that for a backcourt in the in the last under-20s Euro. You got Francisco Costa, Thomas Arnoldson and Martin Costa.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I think, should we wrap it up there for today?
We shall. There was a lot of good chat. Again, thanks everyone for sticking with us over the summer. We'll have a lot coming up for the Olympics. We got some really good build up, including we have to talk about Nikola Karabatic on this podcast. We kind of teased it all season that, you know, there will be time to talk about his career and his life. So
now is the time.
Now is the time in his last ever handball games coming up to Olympics. So we'll have something big for you on Nikola Karabatic. Lots of build up for the Olympics as the teams start to have their friendly matches, and then it's going to kick off and it's going to be good. France playing Denmark in the first game, not in the final. They play in the first game, so we'll build up to that.
And I'll be there. And hopefully catching some good people to talk to, but I have no idea how it works when you're actually at the Olympics. It's going to be a thing we all learn together. Just how difficult it is to make that happen. But fingers crossed, folks. Till then, take care. Thanks for listening and catch you again soon. Goodbye.